Myanmar and Bangladesh discuss proposals for the voluntary repatriation of refugees. But making plans is one thing, getting it to happen is quite another. Human rights groups fear that returning Rohingyas could end up stuck in conditions similar to what's happened in Myanmar's central Rakhine state. Their Rohingyas displaced by riots 5 years ago are still living in IDP camps with limits on their movement and access to education as well as health care.
What we fear is that these detention camps, these IDP camps that are being set up in northern Rakhine state are going to play a function of a sort of an open-air prison.
Myanmar's government says refugees who return will not be placed in camps. More than 600,000 Rohingya Muslims have fled Myanmar since late August in response to a counterinsurgency operation in northern Rakhine state. UN officials have called it ethnic cleansing and possibly even genocide. Refugees accuse Myanmar's army of murder, gang rapes, and razing Rohingya villages. Accusations the military denies.
If this is going to be a voluntary repatriation, then the conditions on the ground have to be such that people who are traumatized and who have just left Myanmar would agree to return to. And that means not just returning to their own houses or plots of land, regaining access to their farms. It means also reassurances on the security situation.
In response to the military crackdown, the U.S. is considering bringing back economic sanctions that would target some of the country's military leaders and businesses connected to them.
These sanctions will be very unlikely to have a significant impact on policy in Myanmar. We should remember that the bulk of sanctions that the country was under for decades were only removed in the last couple of years. So what's being put on the table now in terms of sanctions is not some ominous new threat.
There are also concerns that sanctions could be counterproductive and hinder this country's ongoing transition to democracy from decades of military rule.
Whether sanctions could impact the transition depends very much on what the sanctions are and how well they are targeted, because sanctions do have the potential to impact on the economy more generally, to impact on jobs. And what most people of this country aspire to and want out of this transition is a better life for themselves and their children. And if they see that the West is receding, that the economic opportunities are drying up, that can certainly change sentiment in the country.
So as the world looks at the crisis by the Myanmar-Bangladesh border, questions remain about what actions will help a delicate situation. Dave Grunebaum, CGTN, Yangon.